Welcome to a short tutorial on the use of EnSight for volume of fluid visualization. We have a relatively simple model here of a tank where we have water sloshing inside the tank, and we like to visualize that with EnSight. So first we're going to actually color with our scalars, alpha 1 in this case, that illustrates where we have water and where we have void fraction up here. Now the first thing that we typically do is that in this case let's turn off the visibility of the wall, and we're going to take the default region and create an isosurface of that alpha 1 equals to 0.5. Okay, so that shows us where the water surface is at the moment, and if we go to a different time step you'll see the water surface moving around as well as the tank moves as well. Now what we'd actually like to do is make this a little bit more realistic, so we're first going to apply a texture map onto this top surface and make it semi-transparent. So with the isosurface part selected, we're going to go to our color wheel here, and we'll go down to texture, and we're actually going to read in a tiled texture image. So I'm going to say load texture. I'm going to go to this particular directory here, and I've got a water tileable image, and I'm going to apply that image onto the geometry. Now at the moment you'll see that it's applied it using this projection information. I'm actually going to turn on the plane tool here, and I'm actually going to use the projection from the plane tool as the direction that I'm going to project that image. The image is tileable so that after the repeats outside the extent of the clip plane here, you'll see that the surface repeats itself. We'll now make this surface slightly transparent. So again, with the color wheel we can adjust the transparency down here a little bit. Now for the next thing, we'd actually like to color the walls where we have wetted walls. So we should have something which is basically below the water. I don't know whether the water's on this side or on this side at the moment. So let's create a wetted surface along the wall. To do so, we first need to turn on our ability to do smooth isosurfaces on the isovolumes on the wall. So the command I'm going to enter in here is test : simple isovolume off. Okay, now I'm actually going to use the tank walls here, and I'm going to create an isovolume from 0.5 to 1, and we should see that we have the wall where it is wet. So again, we can go to the isosurface or isovolume option here. We're going to say it's an isovolume, and we're going to go from 0.5 up to 1, and we're going to create with the selected parts. Alright, now we've got the tank walls where we have wetted surfaces. Perhaps we'll color this maybe a light blue color and make it fairly transparent. Okay, so now as we change through time steps, you can see this moving along quite nicely through the domain, and we have a good representation of the top water surface as well as the wetted surface of the wall. Finally, in this case here I've got a wireframe mode for the tank geometry. You can see how big the tank is. But what if the wireframe really doesn't work for you? Your geometry is a little bit more complicated than that. How do we take care of that? That we're going to use the elevated surface option. We're going to take the wall here and we're going to elevate it slightly further outboard, just balloon it very slightly so that we can then show that with a transparent surface as well. If we try to turn on right now, we'll get sort of overlapping between the walls and the isovolume part, and that's not really what we want. So we want to balloon this out very slightly. To balloon it, I want to balloon it in the normal direction, so I'm going to go to my calculator function, and I'm going to say normal, and evaluate for the particular parts. And so we've created a little velocity vector, a little vector which is the normal direction. And we're going to go to the create elevated surfaces. Now for the variable that we want to use, we're going to use the normal that we just created, and we're going to create that. Now at the moment it's a scale factor of 0.8, which is kind of high. I'm actually going to use 0.1. You should see that this is actually just very slightly larger than the actual tank, and I'm just going to balloon it up very slightly so we can see the two. So let's make this transparent. So we'll make this fairly transparent. And at the moment you can see that it exists very slightly outside the red, and as we change the scale factor in the elevated surface down, maybe we'll use 5e minus 2 here, so we're slightly closer. And then we can turn off this red portion so we can see our tank, whatever shape it might be. And now we can go through and we can watch the model progress as we go through time. And we can see not only the outside surface with the elevated surface, we can see the wetted walls with this isovolume part, and we can see the top surface of the water here with a normal isosurface. So that should get you a good feel for doing volume of fluid visualization within EnSight, and some of the tricks and tips for creating good visualizations of the volume of fluid in your model.